Shohei Ohtani just sent shockwaves through baseball. He's returning to the World Baseball Classic. Japan reloads, the world braces, and the Dodgers? They're just hoping that nothing happens to their superstar in the tournament.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? I'm Harry Ruiz. That's Travis Rodgers, and it's time for Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. On today's show, the Dalton Rushing question takes left field. We'll break down what the Dodgers are really thinking. Dave Roberts quietly and somehow still underratedly hits 10 years in Dodger blue, and the resume speaks louder every year. But first, Shohei Ohtani confirms he's in for the 2026 World Baseball Classic. What that means for Japan, for the tournament, and the Dodgers' plans. Should we be nervous, excited, or a little bit of both, Travis?
Can it be all three at exactly the same time? Because that's kind of where I am. I'm looking forward to talking about it on today's episode of Locked On Dodgers, which is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So download that FanDuel app today.
Absolutely. Travis, he's holding it down every weekday from 3 to 6 p.m. with the Travis and DeMarco Show on the radio, 710 ESPN LA if you're in SoCal, or on your phone worldwide via the ESPN LA app. Me, I'm behind the mic for USC and the Raiders doing play-by-play in Spanish, but when I'm not calling touchdowns on weekends, I'm right here breaking down Dodger baseball with you. First time tuning in, welcome to the squad. And to our everydayers, you're the real MVPs of Locked On Dodgers. All right, Shohei Ohtani, he commits to the WBC, and Japan loads up once again. Shohei Ohtani hopped on Instagram Monday night and casually confirmed that Japan fans had what they've been dying to hear. He's playing in the 2026 World Baseball Classic. In Japanese, he wrote something simple, something very Shohei. Happy to play and represent Japan again. Travis, I also saw some Dodgers fans that started getting a heart attack because it was like a 6-photo reel that he had there. And the first one was him just saying thank you wearing a Dodgers uniform. And it's like, wait, what just happened? What's going on here? And then you go to scroll through the last picture, and it's him putting Japan in 2026, and WBC is like whew. All right, everything's okay. But it's crazy what a man like him, if he goes on social media, everybody stops and just holds their breath for a second or two.
I think he knows exactly what he's doing. I think that, when you are, as like you said, as famous, and everybody is just dying for any sort of information about you, about your career, about what you might be doing, what you might do next, that everybody's going to jump to interpret this thing even before we know exactly what the whole story is. So yes, I shared your like, hey, whoa, what is that? And then it's like, okay. I'm not surprised at all that he's going to play for Team Japan. Obviously, it means a great deal to him. I always think of him like that. That was my first great Ohtani memory. That was the first time I saw him kind of unleash the maximum power that that is available to him when he did the two-way thing for his home country. We never really got to see it in a meaningful way with the Angels, and when we got to see it in the 2023 WBC, I think everybody went, whoa, like what could that be like during a major league season? So that he wants to run that back is no surprise to me.
Oh, no doubt about it. And just going back to that post, I like that Instagram gives you the option to translate posts, but it gives you that option when the post has only one language in it. So it was half in English and half in Japanese. So I had to go to a browser and then copy paste it and go to Google Translate to say what the heck he had said over in Japanese. But it was clean, it was humble, and also terrifying for the rest of the baseball world when it was like, all right, what happened? Because look, for anybody else that isn't a Japan fan, this isn't just any player agreeing to join his national team. This is the back-to-back World Series champ. This is the back-to-back-to-back MVP in baseball, once in the AL, twice over in the National League, reigning WBC MVP, the guy who closed out the 2023 Classic, striking out Mike Trout with the entire planet watching. And in that tournament, Ohtani was a cheat code. 435 batting average, 8 runs batted in, 2-0 record as a pitcher, 186 ERA on the mound, and the save in the championship game. So he dominated as both the best hitter and one of the best pitchers in the entire event. And now here's the question, Travis. Will Ohtani pitch in the 2026 edition?
I don't mean to make this overly simple, Harry, but I think it is overly simple. I think he'll pitch if he wants to pitch. I think it's as easy as that. I think that the Dodgers will encourage him to be as cautious as humanly possible. I think that everything we've seen from Ohtani over, it is certainly in his last 2 years in LA has demonstrated that he is cautious, but also at the same time is willing to push it when it's time to push it and willing to go for it when it's time to go for it. I don't think that the Dodgers can tell him what to do. I think that he is entirely his own man. I think he will make his own schedule, his own program, and he should. I don't get me wrong. I'm nervous. I know the last thing I want to do is see him get injured in any sort of way, but I understand why he wants to play. I trust him to do the right thing because he's always done the right thing. He takes incredibly good care of his body. I don't think that he's going to put himself in a dangerous situation without really doing the maximum amount of preparation that he can. But I think if he wants to pitch, he'll pitch. Now, I don't think he's going to go and throw, 6-7 innings in a game, but I think he would pitch the way you would pitch if he was pitching in spring training, maybe an inning here or there, maybe a couple innings in another game. But yeah, I expect him to pitch unless he doesn't want to.
And that's right there the key. And it's Ohtani does what Ohtani wants to do. And look, the Dodgers, they have him under contract for 8 more years. Yes, it's a $700 million contract, but at the same time, he structured it in a way where he benefited the team with all the deferred money. So he's the best player in baseball. He might be the best player ever to play the sport. The Dodgers don't want to be on his bad side and be like, no, you can't do that. They can suggest him to do a thing or two, but at the end of the day, it's whatever Shohei wants to do. Because let's remember, he had his second major elbow surgery in 2023. He didn't get back to the mound until June of 2025. But once he did, he delivered massive starts. He was out there on the mound, Game 7 of the World Series on short rest. Absolute legend stuff, what he does with the Dodgers, both at the plate and over at the batters and at the mound. So major props to Shohei. For the world, this is great that he's going to be participating in this tournament because it just puts a bigger spotlight on it, because it's going to start March 6th at the Tokyo Dome. I don't know what time that game is. I'm pretty sure it's going to be like 3 a.m, and there's a very good chance I'm going to wake up to watch that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I look, it legitimizes the tournament in a way that only he can legitimize it. When he plays, it is, oh, snap, that's a Shohei Ohtani, the best player in the world, and he's playing in this tournament. It must be important. I hope that other players kind of follow suit. I think the one little thing that's missing from the WBC, and it's not much, and I love the WBC, and I thought that the last one we had in 2023 was the best version of it. You got 2, great teams competing at the very highest level. You got Trout versus Ohtani with the entire thing on the line. It was terrific. But the one thing that's missing from it are the best pitchers from the United States pitching in these games. Like, we don't see those guys. They're typically very cautious and very slow to ramp up. And I understand why. It's not a criticism. It's just more of a disappointment. But how great would it be if Ohtani and Yamamoto and Sasaki and Imanaga and all these guys are pitching for the Japanese team, and then at the very same time on the American team, you have Blake Snell and Tarek Skubal and Paul Skeens and these guys pitching for the American team, and everybody is throwing their absolute best at it. I think that would be the best version of this. I understand why it's unlikely to happen, and I certainly respect the way that certain people go about it, but I'm glad he's playing. I think it brings a lot of legitimacy to the tournament. And then there's the last part for me, Harry, is I think that we're watching, like you said earlier, quite possibly the greatest baseball player ever. And the way what he is doing and the way that he's going to be able to build his resume for exactly that, the best player ever, is to start stacking all of these accolades. And he already has. He's a 4-time MVP. Only one person has won more. He's won 3 in a row. He's a multiple-time World Series champion. But if he starts stacking some WBC accolades in there as well, that just adds to the legend of Shohei Ohtani. And look, we don't get to hear him talk very much here, but I would be shocked if this isn't incredibly important to him to build that legacy to where everybody that's ever picked up a baseball says, who's the best player ever? It's Shohei Ohtani. And everybody just understands it right away. And this is another way for him to do that.
No doubt about it. And talking about stars, you look over at the names that have already confirmed that they're going to be participating for the U.S. You got Aaron Judge, Paul Skeens, Francisco Lindor for Puerto Rico, Salvi Perez over for Venezuela, but also looking at more players from Team USA, Garrett Crochet, Tarek Skubal, Logan Webb, Garrett Whitlock, Cal Raleigh, Will Smith. I mean, that's the type of list where it's like, all right, man, that's what you want from this tournament, where I don't know if you follow soccer, but the World Cup in soccer is like the world stops for that tournament. And literally that's the goal for every player, is to become a pro. And then once you become a pro, it's to become so damn good that there's no way that your national team doesn't have a chance to be like, that guy isn't on our roster, that you want to be in that tournament and play under the biggest spotlight possible. Because for us in the States, soccer might not be the most popular sport, but for everybody else in the world, there's very few countries where soccer isn't the most popular sport. So you want to be able to talk about that being the equivalent in baseball, the World Baseball Classic, and you got to have the biggest stars. And when Shohei's in it, there's no excuse. It's like, yeah, you got to start your spring training a little bit earlier. You got to start playing significant baseball early in March, but it's once every 3-4 years that you do it and go represent your country. And that should be it. You represent your country, that you get that pride in you.
I agree. And Dodger fans probably aren't going to like this, and I don't like this. But if it means that he's got to take a little bit of a break at some point during the regular season, then maybe that's what happens, right? And look, he plays every day. I think that's one of the more underappreciated angles of Ohtani's game, is that he posts every day. Like, when was the last time we saw Shohei Ohtani out of the lineup? It's been a very, very long time. And, you know, if he played 135 games instead of 155 or 160 games, is that the end of the world? Probably not. And if that's what it takes to keep him happy and motivated and everything else, I could live with it.
Yeah, Team Japan will be chasing a back-to-back title. Shohei will be chasing his second straight WBC MVP, so the hype will be off the charts. You listening to this podcast, let me know in the comments. Will you be rooting for Shohei Ohtani, or will you be rooting for your home country, the U.S., Mexico, Dominican Republic, wherever you're tuning in? Let me know in the comments below. All right, Dave Roberts hits 10 years as Dodgers manager. Next on Locked On Dodgers, what does that milestone really mean? A decade of consistency, but also a decade under one of baseball's brightest spotlights.
The NBA is back, which means, you know what it means. It means there's no better place to get in on all of that NBA action than on FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So let's say you like to wait. Let's say you like to see how the game is going. You want to see who's got that hot hand at the beginning of the game, and then you want to get in on FanDuel. Perfect, because FanDuel has live bets on everything from who's going to score next to that epic fourth quarter comeback that we all get excited for. Plus, you can even take your live bets and combine them into a same game parlay for a shot at even bigger payouts. Who doesn't like that? It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late run and you got a little something going on as well. So right now, FanDuel, they're giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So here's what you do. You go to FanDuel.com, you sign up, and you play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Check out our YouTube channel where you can subscribe for free. Smash that notification bell so you never miss a beat. Full episodes, hot takes, breaking Dodgers news, and more. If it drops, you're on it. That's how you become an everydayer here on Locked On Dodgers. A decade of Doc. The Roberts era turns 10. It's wild to say this out loud.
Really
Dave
is.
Roberts has now been the Dodgers manager for 10 years. Think back to the chaos before he arrived, Travis, between Tommy Lasorda's retirement and Roberts hiring. The Dodgers cycled through 7 managers across 15 seasons. That was constant turnover, constant reboots, but since Roberts took the job on November 23rd, 2015, it's just been steady all the way.
All right, I got to see if I can do this off the top of my head. So between Lasorda and Roberts, there were 7 guys.
Yes, sir.
All right, I want to see. So Bill Russell replaced Tommy Lasorda. I know Glenn Hoffman was in there. Grady Little was in there. Joe Torre was in there. Davey Johnson was in there. Don Mattingly and Jim Tracy. There's 7. I got them all.
There it is.
I'm very excited about that. No, that's amazing. That it's been that many guys, because the Dodgers were kind of like the Pittsburgh Steelers for a long time. Like they just never changed coaches. The Steelers went from Chuck Noll to Bill Cowher, and Mike Tomlin's still there.
That's it.
Guys, over about 50 years. Well, the Dodgers had Walter Alston to Tommy Lasorda, and both of those guys were there seemingly forever. And then to your point, Harry, they got on that merry-go-round a little bit and couldn't quite get it right. I think this is one of the great, aspects or areas of the Dodger leadership that doesn't get talked about enough. They're incredibly committed and devoted and loyal to their people when they believe that they have the right people. And through some very lean times, or lean times is the wrong word, through some disappointing times, through some failures in the postseason, there was a line of people that wanted Dave Roberts out on the street. They did not want him there. And Andrew Friedman and the Dodgers remained loyal to him because they knew that he was the guy that they thought was the best. And they continued to kind of run it through there, and they should have. And they were rewarded with what we've had the last couple of years. And it's been remarkable. Look at the Lakers, to use another team. They're constantly going through coaches, and maybe they've had some good ones and some not so good ones, but they're really quick to move off of a guy when they don't win a championship. Or they fired Frank Vogel after winning a championship. So the Dodgers are slow to move on that stuff, and I think that's always the right decision, and especially when you get somebody as good at this as Dave Roberts is.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You look at his record, 944 versus 575, a winning percentage of 621, the best in baseball, a history among managers with over 315 games managed, postseason every single year, 9 National League West titles in 10 seasons, 5 World Series appearances, 3 championships. I mean, that resume right there, that's getting him into Cooperstown in the first ballot. No doubt about it. And look, nothing against Don Mattingly, Donnie Baseball. He was awesome when he was with the Dodgers. But there was a moment where with Guggenheim, he just couldn't get over the hump to get into the World Series. Dave Roberts got them to the World Series in his second year with the team. He got them to the World Series the year after that, and then 2 seasons later. So it was like, hey, this guy is showing you that he can manage expectations. He can manage a clubhouse full of stars, and he's able to get this team to the level of play that he needs them to. Now, let's also say this. If the Dodgers don't eliminate the Padres in 2024 in the National League Divisional Series, that would have been a tough conversation, because you were going from being eliminated in that round in 22, in 23 by Padres, by the D-backs, and it's like, oh boy, all right, Dave Roberts, maybe this is it. But fortunately, they got over that hump. They made it to the World Series in back-to-back years, and they won the Commissioner's Trophy. So that's good. Now the question, Travis, is how long does it continue? Because he signed for 3 more years. The deal that made him the highest-paid manager by average salary per year in MLB history. He said that he's not sure he'll manage beyond that. What would you go with there? Is he going to keep on going, or is it time to say goodbye? Because there's also like a time where, as a family man, you're like, you know what? Let me go enjoy my family. What else is there for me to do? I already won a third of the championships in this franchise history, and he can add a couple of more before his contract is over. So would you think that Roberts will stay beyond this current contract, or he'll call it quits afterwards?
I'm almost exactly the same age as Dave Roberts. Believe it or not, Dave Roberts and I Yes, exactly. Young at heart, if not anything else. We actually played against each other in college. He was at UCLA and I was at UCSB. So I think his life is similar to mine, and just kind of where you are and where your head is and all these kind of things. Obviously, very different experiences, but I'm not looking to retire anytime soon. I can't imagine that he's looking to retire anytime soon. And I know he's accomplished a million things more than I have. But when you're in your mid 50s, you're not looking to hang it up. You're looking to go for it at this point, because usually your kids are a little bit older. They don't require as much attention as maybe they might have when they were, in grade school or high school or those sorts of things. So you can kind of really devote yourself to your career. And I would expect him to continue to do that, especially when you have the resources available to him that he has available to him. You just mentioned all of the incredible accomplishments that he's had as the manager of the Dodgers. Well, the one season that you mentioned was, that he didn't win a title or a division title. They won 105 games. I mean, it's just they have not had, and I know as Dodger fans, we get terribly spoiled about, it's a World Series or bust. And I get it. I'm not saying that that's the wrong way to look at this, but it's an awfully narrow way to look at this, that he has been at the helm of the best run of Dodger baseball ever. And have there been disappointments? Of course there have. Are there disappointments on the horizon? Almost assuredly, yes, because that's what baseball does. But I kind of go back to this, that when there, and by the way, I was one of these people talking about maybe it's time to make a change just to freshen things up along the way. But I think one of the most important decisions to ask yourself, and this kind of goes to something else that I know that is close to you, Harry, is USC football, is if you're going to make a change with the coach, do you have somebody better to come in and do this right now? Because and if the answer is, I don't know, then maybe you shouldn't make a move. If you have somebody better that you can bring in, then go for it. But who in the world are you going to go find that can manage a team better than Dave Roberts? And the answer back then was probably nobody. The answer right now is definitely nobody. So I expect him to stay for a long time. And I don't know how many more World Series titles are in his future, in the Dodger future, but I'm pretty sure it's not zero, right? I think it's probably, let's just use the Ohtani window as the timeline. One more, two more, who knows what it looks like, but it's probably something like that. And you get a chance to manage the greatest player of all time in his prime. I wouldn't be looking for an off ramp. I'd want to do this as long as possible. He appears to love it. He's great. He's won over every Dodger fan there is to win over. Like I think about myself when I was, a kid watching Dodger baseball. I thought they built Dodger Stadium around Tommy Lasorda. I didn't think there had ever been a Dodger team that didn't have Tommy Lasorda as their manager. And for a group of people that are coming up right now, that's Dave Roberts. They'll never know Dodger baseball without Dave Roberts until, he's got all gray hair and he's just, he's an old man. And right now he's not. And I hope he stays for a very long time. We're very lucky to have him. He's great with the media. His players. When was the last time you heard a player complain about Dave Roberts? I can't even remember it. It's been an amazing run, and he's, like you said, he's going to the Hall of Fame when it's all said and done.
It's quite the opposite. They praise him like crazy every opportunity that they have. And I think because of that, because of his calm, his communication, his culture setting, those right there are pillars of the organization right now. So the Dodgers and us will take him for as long as he wants to stay. Because in an era where teams fire managers every 18 months, the Dodgers, they are rock solid in that position. Coming up on Locked On Dodgers, a former top prospect could be changing positions. Is Dalton Rushing heading over to left field? Don't forget to follow Locked On Dodgers not only on YouTube, but on X, Instagram, and TikTok as well. You can find Travis on social media at Travis Rodgers on X and Instagram. Meanwhile, I'm at Harry Ruiz on X, at Harry_Ruiz on Instagram, and at Harry Ruiz_ on TikTok. Dalton Rushing, catcher of the future and left fielder of the present? The Dodgers position player puzzle is getting interesting again because Jack Harris from the LA Times reported something that raised eyebrows. GM Brandon Gomes said that the door is open to giving Dalton Rushing time in the outfield in the 2026 season, because let's go back to with Rushing getting his call up this year. but he was stuck behind Will Smith. And it's hard to get rhythm as a backup catcher when your starter plays almost every day and is locked in through 2033. And when you finally get a little window with your catcher getting hurt, you get hurt as well. So the Dodgers right here, they're asking the question, where can Rushing play so he's not wasting big league years sitting on the bench? And left field is on the table again because, Travis, this isn't new. In AAA at the end of 2024, the Dodgers experimented with him in left. He played 31 games that season and then a couple more this year before his call-up. So, and by all reports, he looked athletic, not out of place. So we are talking about the options that the Dodgers could have in left field. Dalton Rushing is one of them.
I think he is. I think there's a lot going on here. Number one, here's the first thing that has to happen. He's got to hit, right? Because if he's not hitting, then there's no reason to put somebody in left field that can't play left field and doesn't hit, right? You have to hit. I think he will hit. He's one of these guys that has kind of hit everywhere he's ever been. I got a chance to sit with him at Legends Attic a month or two ago, and he's highly motivated and a guy that I know cares deeply about his craft. So I think that he ultimately will hit. And the only way you're going to really know for sure is if you could give him a bunch of at-bats and let him kind of settle in to see if he's doing it. So I think that that's number one. You got to find a way to unleash his bat. Otherwise, a backup catcher is probably the ceiling of where he's going to be if he doesn't hit enough. The second part is that there's precedent for this. We've seen, I'll go back a long time ago, kind of go back to the 70s where Joe Ferguson was a catcher for the Dodgers. And he was kind of battling with Steve Yeager as far as who was going to play. And they used to put Joe Ferguson in the outfield. They put him in right field because he could pull it off and he could hit. And there, Austin Barnes, before he became a catcher, was a second baseman and would play second base kind of regularly for the Dodgers and kind of ping pong back and forth between those spots. So it's not like you can't play your backup catcher in other places occasionally. You certainly can. Where it gets a little bit more complicated for the Dodgers is something that we've talked about, multiple times here, that the everydayers know. They're closed out at DH. You can't put anyone else at DH. You can't put Will Smith there for a day. You can't put Freddie Freeman there for a day. You certainly can't put Dalton Rushing in the designated hitter spot for a day, because that means taking Shohei Ohtani out of the lineup, which is never going to happen barring an injury. So I think there's all of that. But the problem with it is, if there is one, is the more time you're spending learning how to play left field, the less time you are learning how to become a catcher at the big league level. And that's what ultimately is going to probably keep him here or keep him in the Dodger roster, is the ability to, what did we talk about with Ben Rortvedt over and over and over again? He came up and he was comfortable behind the plate. He caught the baseball. The pitchers seemed to be comfortable with him back there. That Rushing getting to that level, I think, is as important as anything else. But, they got a lot invested in him. He's a big-time prospect. I know that they want to make it work. So they're going to give him a lot of runway to make it happen. And that could be in left field for sure. I'm not opposed to the idea, because they don't seem to have a better answer at this point.
Yeah, and position by position, catcher, blocked by Will Smith for a decade. First base, blocked by Freddie Freeman through 2027. DH, yep. I mean, that position is for Shohei Ohtani for as long as he wants it. So that right there shows you, okay, if Rushing is going to be a contributor in 2026 and beyond, especially on a team trying to maximize every roster spot, left field may be the clearest lane for him.
Yeah, when I was speaking with him earlier this year, we were talking, and he said that one of the more challenging things for him was just, for the first time in his life, he wasn't playing every day. And it was just very, very difficult to get into the flow of being a baseball player when you don't get live at bats on a regular basis. He's a highly regarded prospect. He's been the best player on every team he's ever been on until he got to this one. And now all of a sudden he's got to wait around. And then when you do get at bats, you're pressing a little bit. You're trying to make everything happen right away. It's very hard to just relax and let your natural talent take place when you haven't had an at bat in 5 or 6 days. It's challenging. So they got to find a way to make him comfortable, to get him as many at-bats as possible, while at the same time making sure that he stays on track to become a catcher, and get him at-bats simultaneously. It is really, really challenging. And here's the other thing, and this may be the best of both worlds. maybe there's a fit for him somewhere else, on another team, because someone would covet him in a very meaningful way, which means you can fill some other holes along the way. I don't want that to happen. I hope that Dalton Rushing stays here and blossoms into, one of the great Dodgers, but I can guarantee you he wants to play, and playing somewhere else is better than not playing at all.
And I was going to go to that. Like, there's players who the last 2 seasons, they've been happy to be with the Dodgers for a week because that means that they get a World Series championship ring, and that gives them the ability to put in their resume World Series champion. But in the case of Dalton Rushing, I feel that that's not enough. He has the capacity, the ability to be a major leaguer for a long time, and that means that you don't just want to be able to get to the end of your arbitration years. You want to get to that big contract once you can become a free agent and get a big deal to secure your future, your family's future, and their family's future. So Dalton Rushing, he's a great baseball player, and you got to be in the space of mind where it's like, okay, this is just the process, and it's going to take me somewhere somehow to be a starter in Major League Baseball long term.
Yeah, the blessing with the Dodgers is that it's the Dodgers and you're going to win a bunch. And the curse of the Dodgers is that it is a crowded field, that it is a very hard spot to get to find at bats as a younger player. This is like you said, Harry, and I think you're spot on. This isn't a Kike Hernandez, Miguel Rojas situation, who guys have had long major league careers, who are comfortable being role players, playing periodically, that know how to manage that have been through the big leagues a long time. This is a guy that's trying to find his way for the very first time. It's a very different ask of a younger player as opposed to a veteran player.
And look, sometimes you play left field today so you can be a starting catcher tomorrow. And if he hits like the Dodgers think he will, they'll find him a spot on this team.
You got to hit. You got to hit. If you hit, they will find a place for you to play. It is literally that simple.
Exactly. All right, that'll do it for today's episode. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. If you're still craving more baseball talk, have the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night be your second listen. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. On Wednesday, we're going there. The Yankees owner, yes, the king of baseball spending for decades, is complaining about the Dodgers' dominance in payroll. We'll talk about how the mighty have fallen, why the Yankees are suddenly pointing fingers, and why the Dodgers aren't apologizing for being the new standard of baseball excellence.
If George were still around, he'd wash his kid's mouth out with soap for saying such a ridiculous thing. I can't wait to talk about it.
We appreciate you riding with us. Until next time, keep it real, keep it Dodger Blue.